When Nathan Hayes stood in that sterile hospital hallway watching his father's heart monitor flatline for the third time that week, he knew he was out of options. No savings, no insurance, just a dying parent, a terrified 8-year-old daughter waiting at home, and $300,000 in medical debt he'd never escape. Then his phone buzzed with a message from Isabella Laurent, the ice-cold billionaire CEO whose company employed him as a nobody mechanic. And her proposal was so insane he thought it was a sick joke. Marry me for 1 year, pretend you love me in court, and I'll pay everything. Nathan stared at those words until his vision blurred. He had exactly 2 choices. Watch his father die broke and broken, or sell himself into a fake marriage with a woman who saw him as nothing more than a desperate transaction. If you want to see how far a man will go to save the people he loves, stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this journey reaches. Nathan Hayes sat alone in the hospital waiting room at 2 in the morning, his work boots still covered in engine grease, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold the paper cup of terrible coffee. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like they were mocking him. Every nurse who walked past avoided eye contact. They all knew what was coming. His father was dying. Stage 4 lung cancer. The oncologist had stopped pretending there were treatment options 3 weeks ago and started using words like comfort care and making arrangements. But comfort care cost money Nathan didn't have. Arrangements cost money he'd never see in his lifetime. The latest bill sat folded in his jacket pocket. He didn't need to look at it again. The number was burned into his brain. $127,450. And that was just this month. Total debt. $300 to $4,892. Nathan made $32 an hour fixing luxury cars at Laurent Automotive Group's Executive Service Center. He worked 60-hour weeks when they let him. He drove a 15-year-old pickup that burned oil. He lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in the cheapest part of town with his daughter Mia, surviving on frozen dinners and hope. There was no savings account, no college fund, no emergency anything. His phone buzzed. He glanced down expecting another collections notice. Instead, he saw a name that made his stomach drop. Isabella Laurent, the CEO, the owner of the entire company. The woman he'd seen exactly twice in 4 years, both times from a distance while she swept through the executive garage in $1,000 heels, surrounded by assistants, looking like she'd never touched anything dirty in her entire life. Nathan stared at the message preview. We need to discuss a private matter. Tonight. He almost deleted it, thought it was spam. But then a second message appeared with an address he recognized. The Laurent estate, 15 minutes outside the city. And a time, 3 a.m. Come alone. Nathan looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 2:17. He stood up slowly, his knees cracking. Walked to his father's room and pushed the door open quietly. The old man was asleep, his breathing shallow and painful even with the oxygen tube. Nathan stood there for a long moment, memorizing his father's face, terrified every goodbye might be the last one. I'll fix this, Hoss, Nathan whispered. I don't know how, but I'll fix it. Then he turned and walked out before his voice could crack. The Laurent estate sat behind iron gates and perfectly trimmed hedges that probably cost more to maintain than Nathan's annual salary. He pulled up to the intercom in his rattling truck, feeling like an idiot. But before he could press the button, the gates swung open automatically. Someone was watching. He drove up the long, curved driveway past fountains and sculptures and sprawling gardens until he reached a mansion that looked like it belonged in a European painting. The front door opened before he even parked. A woman in a business suit stood in the doorway. Not Isabella. Someone younger. An assistant, maybe. Mr. Hayes. Nathan climbed out of the truck. Yeah, that's me. Miss Laurent is expecting you. Follow me. He followed her through a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier the size of his truck, down a hallway lined with paintings that were probably worth more than his entire bloodline, and into a private office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. Isabella Laurent sat behind a massive glass desk, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. She looked exactly like her reputation, beautiful, cold, untouchable. Dark hair pulled back tight, expensive suit. No wedding ring, even though Nathan knew she'd been married once. Her divorce had been all over the business news 2 years ago. Messy, public, brutal. Sit down, Mr. Hayes. Nathan sat. Isabella dismissed the assistant with a slight nod, waited until the door clicked shut, then looked at Nathan like she was evaluating a piece of machinery. "I'm going to make you an offer," she said, "and I need your answer tonight." Nathan's throat felt dry. "Okay. I'll pay every dollar of your father's medical expenses, past, present, and future. I'll cover his treatment, his medications, his hospice care if it comes to that. I'll also pay off your credit card debt, your truck loan, and set up a trust fund for your daughter's education. $250,000. Nathan's vision blurred. He gripped the armrests of the chair to keep from falling over. "Why?" he managed. Isabella's expression didn't change. "Because I need something from you in return." "What?" She stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the city for a long moment before answering. "I need you to marry me." Nathan's brain short-circuited. He actually laughed. Couldn't help it. "What?" "Not a real marriage. A legal arrangement. 1 year. You move into this house with your daughter. We present ourselves as a committed couple in public. You attend events with me. You meet with my lawyers. You testify in court if necessary." "Testify to what?" Isabella turned to face him. For the first time, Nathan saw something crack in her perfect mask. Something exhausted and desperate. "My ex-husband is trying to take my daughter away from me. He's filing for full custody. He's claiming I'm unstable, emotionally unavailable, unfit. His lawyers are building a case that I prioritize work over my child, that I'm incapable of providing a stable home environment. And a fake husband fixes that?" A stable husband fixes that. Someone with no criminal record, no scandals, no skeletons. Someone who's already raising a daughter successfully on his own. Someone sympathetic, relatable, real. Nathan stared at her. "You want me because I'm poor. I want you because you're convincing. My ex-husband knows every wealthy man in this city. He'd see through anyone from my social circle immediately. But you..." She gestured at him. His grease-stained shirt, his calloused hands. "You're the opposite of everything he'd expect. You're genuine, and that's exactly what I need." Nathan shook his head slowly. "This is insane." "Yes." "You don't even know me." "I know enough. I know you've worked for my company for 4 years without a single complaint or incident. I know you're raising your daughter alone after your wife died. I know you've been covering your father's medical expenses out of pocket instead of declaring bankruptcy like most people would. I know you're desperate, and I know you'll say yes." Nathan stood up. His hands were shaking again. "I need to think." "You don't have time to think," Isabella interrupted. "The custody hearing starts in 6 weeks. I need a marriage certificate filed before then. I need us living together, functioning as a family unit, presenting a united front. If you're going to say no, say it now so I can find someone else." "Someone else? You're not the only desperate man in this city, Mr. Hayes. You're just the most convenient." That landed like a punch. Nathan felt anger flare in his chest, but he swallowed it. She wasn't wrong. He was desperate, and she knew it. "What happens after the year?" he asked quietly. "We divorce. Quietly. Amicably. You walk away with enough money to start over. Your father gets the care he needs. Your daughter gets her future back. And if your ex-husband finds out it's fake..." Isabella's jaw tightened. "Then I lose my daughter. So that can't happen." Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something underneath all that ice. Fear. Genuine, bone-deep fear. The kind he recognized because he felt it every time he looked at his own daughter and wondered how he was going to feed her next month. "Why me?" he asked again. "Really?" Isabella walked back to her desk and pulled out a folder. She slid it across to Nathan. Inside were photos. Him with Mia at the park. Him picking her up from school. Him reading to her on the apartment steps. "I had you investigated," Isabella said simply. "I needed to know if you were the kind of man who could pull this off. And you are. You love your daughter. You'd do anything for her. That kind of love doesn't fake well, Mr. Hayes. And that's exactly what I need someone to see when they look at us." Nathan felt sick. She'd been watching him, studying him. Sick. Shidito, deciding if he was useful. "I have a daughter too," Isabella continued. "Sophia. She's 7. She's smart, and stubborn, and she doesn't trust anyone anymore because her father spent 2 years tearing this family apart. She needs stability. She needs to see what a real partnership looks like, even if it's fake. You want me to lie to a kid? I want you to protect a kid, the same way you protect yours. Nathan closed the folder, pushed it back across the desk. I don't lie to Mia. Then don't. Tell her the truth. Tell her we're helping each other. Children understand more than we give them credit for. Nathan stood there, his mind racing. Everything about this was wrong, insane, unethical. But the image of his father's heart monitor flashing red kept playing in his head. The sound of Mia crying herself to sleep because she was scared Grandpa was going to die. The stack of past due notices on his kitchen counter. If I say yes, Nathan said slowly, I do this my way. I'm not some actor you hired. I'm not going to smile for the cameras and pretend to be someone I'm not. I don't want you to pretend. I want you to be exactly who you are. And your daughter? How's she going to feel when some stranger moves into her house? She'll adjust. She's resilient. That's not an answer. Isabella's expression hardened. You don't get to lecture me about my daughter, Mr. Hayes. You're here because you need money, not because you care about my family. You're right, Nathan shot back. I don't care about your family. I care about mine. And if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to screw up some little girl's head just because her mom's too proud to admit she needs help. Silence. Isabella stared at him, her eyes cold and sharp. Then, slowly, something shifted. Her shoulders dropped slightly. The mask slipped. I'm terrified, she said quietly. I'm terrified I'm going to lose her, and I don't know what else to do. Nathan exhaled, sat back down. If I agree to this, he said, we do it right. No half measures. If we're going to convince a court we're married, we actually have to act like partners. That means you don't get to treat me like the help, and I don't get to treat you like a paycheck. We figure out how to make this work for real, even if it's temporary. Isabella studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Agreed. And Mia comes first, always. If this arrangement puts her at risk in any way, I'm out. The same goes for Sophia. Nathan looked down at his hands. Mechanic's hands. Rough and scarred and honest. He thought about his father dying in that hospital bed. He thought about Mia's college fund that didn't exist. He thought about the future he couldn't give her. Then he looked up at Isabella Laurent, this stranger, this billionaire, this desperate mother, and made a choice he knew he'd never be able to take back. 1 year? Nathan said. 1 year, sir? Isabella agreed. She pulled out a contract. Nathan read it slowly, every word, even though half the legal language made his head spin. It was all there. Medical expenses, debt forgiveness, trust fund, divorce settlement. He signed it. Isabella signed it. Then she stood and extended her hand. Welcome to the family, Mr. Hayes. Nathan shook her hand. Her grip was firm and cold. When do we start? He asked. Tomorrow. Pack your things. I'll send a car for you and your daughter at noon. Nathan nodded, stood, walked to the door, then stopped. Miss Laurent? Yes? What if this actually works? What if we convince everyone we're real? Isabella's expression was unreadable. Then we'll have done our jobs well. And after we go back to being strangers. Nathan left without another word. He drove back to the hospital in a daze. His father was awake when he walked in, his eyes cloudy but alert. Where'd you go? The old man rasped. Nathan sat down beside the bed. I made a deal. What kind of deal? The kind that's going to keep you alive. His father studied him with that same sharp look he'd had Nathan's whole life. The look that saw through every lie, every excuse, every moment of weakness. What's it going to cost you? He asked. Nathan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Nothing I can't afford. That was a lie, and they both knew it. But his father nodded anyway, closed his eyes, trusted him. Nathan sat there until dawn, holding his father's hand, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. Mia was eating cereal at the kitchen table when Nathan got home. She looked up at him with those big worried eyes that broke his heart every single day. Is Grandpa okay? Nathan knelt down beside her chair. Yeah, baby, Grandpa's gonna be okay. Promise? I promise. She hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. Nathan held her and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Mia, I need to talk to you about something important. She pulled back, her expression instantly serious. What? We're going to move, just for a little while, to a really big house. Why? Because I'm helping someone, a lady who needs our help, and in return, she's helping us take care of Grandpa. Mia frowned. What kind of help? Nathan took a breath, chose his words carefully. She has a little girl, just like you, and she needs us to stay with them for a year, be part of their family. Can you do that? Is she nice? I don't know yet, Nathan admitted, but we're going to find out together, okay? Mia thought about it, then nodded. Okay, but I'm bringing Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers was a stuffed cat she'd had since she was 2. Nathan smiled. Of course you're bringing Mr. Whiskers. And my books. All of them. And my nightlight. Whatever you need, baby. Mia hugged him again. Nathan closed his eyes and tried to convince himself he was doing the right thing. The car arrived at exactly noon. Not a regular car. A black SUV with tinted windows and a driver in a suit who loaded their boxes without saying a word. Mia stared at it with wide eyes. We're riding in that? Yep. Are we rich now? No, baby. We're just borrowing someone else's rich. The drive to the Laurent estate felt longer the second time. Mia pressed her face against the window, watching the city turn into suburbs, turn into mansions. When they pulled through the iron gates, she gasped, We're living here? For a year. This place is huge. Yeah, it is. The driver parked in front of the mansion. Nathan climbed out, his stomach twisting. Isabella was waiting at the front door, perfectly composed, her expression neutral. And beside her stood a little girl with dark hair and wary eyes. Sophia. Nathan took Mia's hand and walked up the steps. Mia, he said quietly, this is Miss Laurent, and this is Sophia. Mia stared at Isabella like she was some kind of alien. Then she looked at Sophia and smiled shyly. Hi. Sophia didn't smile back, just studied Mia with the same cold calculation her mother used. Hi, she said finally. Isabella's gaze shifted to Nathan. Welcome. I'll show you to your rooms. The mansion was even more overwhelming on the inside. Marble everywhere, chandeliers, paintings. Mia kept stopping to stare at things, her mouth hanging open. Sophia walked beside her mother without expression, like she'd seen it all 1,000 times before. Isabella led them upstairs to a wing of the house Nathan hadn't seen before. She stopped in front of 2 doors across the hall from each other. Sophia's room, she said, gesturing to one. Then the other. The guest suite. You and Mia will stay there. Nathan nodded. Thank you. Dinner is at 6. We eat together. As a family. The way she said family made it sound like a business term. Understood. Isabella looked at Mia, her expression softening slightly. Sophia can show you around the house if you'd like. Mia looked up at Nathan. He nodded. Okay, Mia said. Sophia hesitated, then, after a long moment, she nodded too. Come on. The 2 girls disappeared down the hallway. Nathan watched them go, his chest tight. She doesn't talk much, Isabella said quietly. Sophia? Yes. Not since the divorce. Nathan looked at Isabella. For the first time he saw the cracks in her armor, the exhaustion, the fear. She'll be okay, he said. Kids are tougher than we think. I hope you're right. Isabella turned and walked away, leaving Nathan standing alone in the hallway of a house that would never feel like home. Buckets. Dinner was painfully awkward. They sat at a table that could fit 20 people. The 4 of them clustered at one end like strangers at a conference. Isabella barely touched her food. Sophia pushed hers around her plate. Mia kept glancing at Nathan nervously. So, Nathan said, trying to break the silence, what grade are you in, Sophia? Second, Sophia said without looking up. Mia's in 3rd. I know. Silence again. Isabella cleared her throat.
Sophia, why don't you tell Mr. Hayes about your ballet class? I quit. You didn't quit. You're taking a break. I quit. Isabella's jaw tightened.
Nathan could see her struggling to stay calm. Do you like ballet? Mia asked Sophia. Sophia shrugged. It's boring. I tried ballet once, Mia said. I fell down a lot. For the first time, Sophia looked at Mia directly. Really? Yeah, the teacher said I had 2 left feet. Sophia's lips twitched, almost a smile. Nathan exhaled. Progress. What do you like to do? Mia asked. Sophia thought about it. I like to read. Me too. What's your favorite book? I don't know. I have a lot. Can you show me? Sophia glanced at her mother. Isabella nodded. Okay, Sophia said. After dinner, the 2 girls disappeared upstairs again. Nathan started clearing the table. Isabella stood and picked up her own plate. You don't have to do that, she said. The staff. I'm not staff, Nathan interrupted, and I clean up after myself. Isabella watched him for a moment. Then she picked up Sophia's plate and carried it to the kitchen. They worked in silence, loading the dishwasher, wiping down the counters. It was strange, domestic, almost normal. Thank you, Isabella said finally. For what? For talking to her. She hasn't spoken that much in weeks. Nathan shrugged. Mia's good at that. Making people feel safe? Where did she learn it? Us. From her mom. Isabella looked at him. I'm sorry. About your wife. It was a long time ago. Does Mia remember her? Not really. She was only 2. Isabella nodded, looked away. Sophia remembers everything. Every fight. Every slammed door. Every time her father screamed at me in front of her. Nathan didn't know what to say to that, so he just kept cleaning. I should have left sooner, Isabella continued quietly. I should have protected her better. You're protecting her now. By lying to her? By doing what you have to do. Isabella looked at him, her eyes sharp. Is that what you tell yourself? That this is just what you have to do? Every single day. She smiled, but it was bitter. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Yeah, Nathan said. We really are. Later that night, Nathan sat on the edge of Mia's bed while she clutched Mr. Whiskers and stared up at the ceiling. The room was 3 times the size of her old bedroom. She looked tiny in it. Dad? Yeah, baby. Is Sophia sad? Nathan thought about how to answer that. Yeah, I think she is. Why? Because her mom and dad don't live together anymore, and that's really hard. Mia was quiet for a moment. Like how mom's gone? Kind of, but different. Can I be her friend? Nathan's chest ached. I think she'd like that. Good. Mia yawned. I like her. She's quiet, but she's nice. Nathan kissed her forehead. Get some sleep, okay? Okay. Love you, Dad. Love you too, baby. He turned off the light and walked across the hall to his own room. It was bigger than his entire apartment. King-size bed, sitting area. Private bathroom with a tub the size of a small pool. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed and dropped his head into his hands. 1 year. 365 days of pretending to be someone he wasn't. Of living in a house that wasn't his. Of playing husband to a woman who saw him as a business transaction. His phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Your father's treatment has been fully covered. All balances cleared. Nathan stared at the screen until it blurred. It was real. This insane arrangement was real, and there was no going back now. He lay down on top of the covers, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion finally dragged him under. Somewhere down the hall, he heard Sophia's voice, Mia's laughter. Maybe this wouldn't be a complete disaster. Maybe. The first week passed in a blur of uncomfortable silences and forced routines. Nathan woke at 5 every morning, made coffee in a kitchen bigger than his old apartment, and drove to work at the Laurent Automotive Group like nothing had changed, except everything had changed. He came home to a mansion instead of a cramped apartment. He ate dinner at a table that cost more than his truck. And every night he went to bed alone in a room fit for royalty, listening to the sound of his daughter laughing with another little girl down the hall. It was the laughter that kept him sane. Mia and Sophia had bonded faster than anyone expected. They did homework together in Sophia's room, built blanket forts in the upstairs hallway, and whispered secrets that made them both giggle uncontrollably. Sophia smiled now, actually smiled. And when she did, Isabella would stop whatever she was doing and just stare at her daughter like she was witnessing a miracle. But the distance between Nathan and Isabella remained vast and deliberate. They were polite, professional, careful never to touch or stand too close. At dinner, they discussed logistics like business partners, Sophia's school schedule, upcoming social events, the custody hearing timeline. Never anything personal, never anything real. Until the morning, Isabella walked into the kitchen and found Nathan fixing the sink. "What are you doing?" she asked, her tone sharp with confusion. Nathan looked up from where he was crouched under the cabinet, wrench in hand. "Fixing the leak. The staff mentioned it yesterday. We have people for that." "Yeah, well, I'm people too, and I know how to fix a sink." Isabella stood there in her pristine business suit, her expression caught between irritation and something else. "You don't need to—" "I know I don't need to," Nathan interrupted, turning back to the pipe. "But I'm not going to sit around this place being useless just because you've got money." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Silence. Nathan tightened the fitting, tested it, then crawled out from under the sink. He stood up and found Isabella still standing there, her arms crossed, her jaw tight. "I meant," she said carefully, "that you're not here to be my handyman. You're here to be my husband." Fake husband. The distinction doesn't matter if people are watching. Nathan wiped his hands on a rag. "Nobody's watching us in your kitchen at 6 in the morning. You'd be surprised." Something in her tone made Nathan stop. He looked at her more closely, saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes kept darting to the windows. "Is someone actually watching?" he asked. Isabella walked to the coffee maker, poured herself a cup with hands that weren't quite steady. "Victor has investigators. I guarantee they're taking photos of this house, tracking our movements, looking for anything they can use against me in court. So let them see me fixing your sink. Proves I'm actually living here. It proves you're doing household repairs. That's not the same as being part of this family." Nathan leaned against the counter. "What do you want me to do, Isabella? Pretend I'm someone I'm not? Walk around in expensive clothes and act like I belong here? I want you to understand that every single thing we do matters. How we talk to each other, how we look at each other, whether we touch, whether we laugh together. All of it gets analyzed and judged. We don't laugh together." Isabella's expression faltered. "No, we don't. Maybe we should start. This isn't a real marriage, Nathan. I know that, but it's supposed to look like one. And married people actually talk to each other about things that aren't schedules and strategy." Isabella set her coffee down with more force than necessary. "Fine. What would you like to talk about?" "I don't know. Anything real." "Real?" Isabella repeated, her voice cold. "You want real? My ex-husband is trying to destroy me. My daughter barely speaks to me anymore because she thinks I chose work over her. I haven't slept through the night in 2 years. And I'm paying a stranger to pretend to love me because I'm apparently incapable of finding someone who actually would. Is that real enough for you?" Nathan stared at her. The mask had cracked wide open, and underneath it was someone exhausted and angry and terrified. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Don't apologize. You asked for real. That's real. Does Sophia really think you chose work over her?" Isabella's shoulders sagged. Victor spent months telling her exactly that. Every time I missed a school event or worked late, he'd tell her I didn't care, that my company mattered more than she did. That's not true. "Isn't it?" Isabella looked at him, her eyes hollow. "I built Laurent Automotive from nothing. 20-hour days, 7 days a week for years. I missed birthdays, recitals, parent-teacher conferences. I told myself I was building a future for her, but maybe Victor was right. Maybe I was just building an empire because I didn't know how to be anything else." Nathan thought about his own daughter. All the times he'd worked double shifts to pay rent. All the nights Mia had eaten dinner alone because he couldn't leave the shop. "You did what you had to do to survive," he said. "That doesn't make you a bad mother. Doesn't make me a good one either. You're here now, fighting for her. That counts for something, so.
Isabella laughed, but it was bitter. I'm fighting for her by lying to her, by bringing strangers into her home and asking her to pretend we're a happy family. She seems happy with Mia. Oh, she is.
Which somehow makes this worse. Nathan grabbed his own coffee, took a long drink, tried to find the right words. You know what I think? What? I think you're so used to fighting that you don't know how to accept help when someone offers it.
Isabella's eyes narrowed.
And I think you're so used to being self-reliant that you don't know how to admit when you're in over your head. Fair enough. They stood there in the too big kitchen, two stubborn people who'd agreed to lie for each other, and for the first time since this arrangement started, something almost felt honest between them. We should practice, Isabella said finally. Practice what?
Being married, in public, I mean. We have a charity gala this weekend, high profile. Victor will definitely be there. It's the perfect opportunity to present ourselves as a couple.
Nathan's stomach dropped. A gala? Yes. With rich people. Predominantly, yes. I don't own a tux. I'll have one sent over. What's your size? Nathan told her. Isabella pulled out her phone and started typing. I don't know how to act at those things, Nathan admitted. You don't need to act. Just stay close to me. Smile when people talk to you. Let me handle the conversations. That sounds miserable.
It is, but it's necessary.
Nathan thought about the contract he'd signed. The money already spent on his father's treatment. The life Mia was building with Sophia. There was no backing out now. All right, he said. I'll go to your gala.
Our gala, Isabella corrected. We're married, remember?
Right, our gala. Dang. Isabella almost smiled. It was brief and fragile, but it was there. Then Mia and Sophia came running into the kitchen, both still in pajamas, both talking over each other about some dream Sophia had about flying horses. The tension in the room evaporated instantly. Isabella's entire posture shifted when she looked at her daughter, softening in a way Nathan hadn't seen before. Good morning, Isabella said. Mom, can Mia and I make pancakes? Sophia asked.
Isabella hesitated. I have a meeting in an hour. I'll help them, Nathan offered.
Sophia looked at him with those same wary eyes she'd had the first day. But then Mia grabbed her hand and squeezed, and Sophia nodded. Okay. Isabella gathered her things, kissed Sophia's forehead, a quick, almost nervous gesture, and left for work without another word to Nathan. He spent the next hour teaching two little girls how to make pancakes from scratch, laughing when they got flour everywhere, pretending not to notice when Sophia smiled at him for the first time. It felt dangerously close to real. The tuxedo arrived on Thursday. Nathan stared at it hanging in his closet like it was some kind of trap. He'd never worn anything that expensive in his life. The fabric felt wrong under his fingers. Too smooth. Too perfect. Mia appeared in his doorway. You look scared. I am scared. It's just fancy clothes, Dad. It's not the clothes. It's the people. Mia climbed onto his bed, hugged Mr. Whiskers to her chest. Are they mean people? No, just different. Different how? Hey, Nathan sat down beside her. They have a lot of money. They're used to things I'm not used to. I don't know how to talk to them. Just talk normal, like you talk to me.
I don't think that's going to work, baby. Why not? Because they're going to look at me and know I don't belong there. Mia frowned. That's dumb. Nathan laughed. Yeah, it kind of is.
Ms. Laurence says you're the smartest person she knows. That stopped Nathan cold. She said that? Yeah, when we were reading yesterday. I asked her if you were smart because you fix cars, and she said you're smart because you fix everything. Nathan's chest tightened. He had no idea how to process that. Did she really say that? He asked. Yep. She said you make things work that are broken. Nathan looked at his daughter's open, honest face and wondered what the hell Isabella meant by that, if she was talking about cars or something else entirely.
You should wear the fancy clothes, Mia said. You'll look handsome.
You think so?
I know so. Nathan kissed the top of her head. What would I do without you? Probably mess everything up. Probably.
The night of the gala, Nathan stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized himself. The tuxedo fit perfectly. Too perfectly. He looked like someone playing dress-up. An imposter. There was a knock on his door. Isabella's voice, quiet. Are you ready? Nathan opened the door and forgot how to breathe. Isabella stood in the hallway wearing a floor-length emerald dress that looked like it cost more than his truck. Her hair was down for the first time since he'd met her, falling in dark waves over her shoulders. She wore minimal jewelry, no mask, just her, standing there, looking almost nervous. You look, Nathan started, then stopped. Couldn't find the word. Acceptable? Isabella offered. Beautiful, Nathan corrected. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort. She looked away quickly. You clean up well yourself, she said. I feel ridiculous. You look the part. That's what matters. Nathan stepped into the hallway. They stood there for a moment, two people about to walk into a room full of strangers and lie convincingly about loving each other. We should go over the story, Isabella said, in case anyone asks how we met. What's the story? Isa. We met at the company. You were working on my car. We started talking. It developed from there. That's boring. It's believable. It's boring and believable, Nathan amended. What about the truth? Isabella's eyebrows rose. The truth? You hunted me down because you needed someone desperate enough to marry you for money. I said yes because my father was dying and I had no other options. Now, we're living together and pretending to be in love while our daughters actually become friends. And we try not to screw them up too badly in the process. Isabella stared at him. That's not a story we can tell. I know, but it's a hell of a lot more interesting than we met at work. A small smile tugged at Isabella's lips. You have a point. So what do we do? We stick to the boring version, and if anyone pushes, we change the subject. I can do that. Isabella looked at him for a long moment, something unreadable in her expression. Then she held out her hand. Shall we? Nathan took her hand. Her skin was cold and soft. He threaded his fingers through hers and felt her tense slightly before relaxing into it. This feels weird, he muttered. It's supposed to look natural. I mean, it feels weird that it doesn't feel weirder. Isabella glanced up at him, confused. What? Nothing. Let's go. They walked downstairs together. Mia and Sophia were waiting in the foyer with the nanny Isabella had hired for the evening. Both girls gasped when they saw them. You look like a princess, Mom, Sophia said. And you look like a prince, Dad, Mia added. Nathan laughed. I don't know about that. You do, Sophia said quietly. Then, even quieter, you look like you belong together. Isabella's hand tightened in Nathan's. He squeezed back. Be good for Mrs. Chen, Isabella told Sophia. We will, both girls chorused. Then Nathan and Isabella walked out to the waiting car, still holding hands, and drove toward a room full of people who would judge every word, every glance, every breath. The gala was held at a historic hotel downtown, the kind with marble columns and crystal chandeliers that belonged in movies, not real life. Nathan felt out of place the moment they walked through the doors. Men in expensive suits, women dripping in diamonds, everyone holding champagne glasses and talking in that polished, careful way rich people talked when they were sizing each other up. Isabella's posture changed immediately. The exhausted woman from the kitchen disappeared, replaced by the billionaire CEO everyone expected. She smiled at people, shook hands, introduced Nathan with practiced ease. This is my husband, Nathan Hayes. Husband. The word landed differently every time she said it. People looked at Nathan like he was a curiosity. Where did you two meet? What do you do? How long have you been together? Isabella handled it smoothly, steering conversations before Nathan had to answer anything complicated. But he could feel the judgment underneath the polite smiles. They all knew he didn't belong here. Then Victor Laurent appeared. Nathan recognized him immediately from the photos in Isabella's legal files. Mid-40s, tall, silver hair, expensive everything. He moved through the crowd like he owned it. And maybe he did. Old money. Old connections. The kind of man who'd never worked a day in his life but somehow controlled everything anyway. He spotted Isabella and walked straight toward them. "Isabella," Victor said, his voice smooth and cold. "You look well." Victor shone. His eyes shifted to Nathan, calculated, dismissive. "And you must be the new husband I've been hearing about." Nathan extended his hand. "Nathan Hayes." Victor shook it with a grip designed to intimidate. Nathan matched it without flinching. "Hayes, Victor repeated like he was tasting the name. "What is it you do, Nathan?" "I'm a mechanic." "How quaint." Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "And where did you two meet?" "At work," Isabella said smoothly. "Ah, so you work for my ex-wife's company." "I work for Laurent Automotive Group," Nathan corrected, "which belongs to Isabella, not you." Victor's smile sharpened. "Technically, half the company's assets were mine in the divorce settlement. Technically, you gave up any claim to the company when you signed the agreement," Isabella countered. "Did I? My lawyers seem to remember it differently." The air between them crackled with tension. Nathan could feel Isabella's hand trembling slightly in his. He stepped closer to her, a subtle shift in position that put his body partially between her and Victor. "Is there something you need, Victor?" Isabella asked. "Or are you just here to make vague threats?" I'm here for the same reason you are. Charity? Optics." He glanced at Nathan again. "Though I have to say this is quite the performance. Very convincing." "It's not a performance," Nathan said. "No? Then tell me, Nathan, what exactly does a mechanic bring to a marriage with one of the wealthiest women in the city? Besides financial desperation?" "Of course." Isabella's jaw clenched. "That's enough, Victor. I'm just asking honest questions. The same questions the court will ask when they review your living situation. When they wonder why a woman like you suddenly married someone so far beneath her station. When they realize this is nothing more than a desperate attempt to appear stable and committed." Nathan felt anger flash hot in his chest. He opened his mouth to respond, but Isabella squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt. A warning. "Enjoy the evening, Victor," Isabella said coldly, "and give my regards to whatever woman you brought as your date tonight. I'm sure she's lovely and has no idea who you really are." Victor's expression darkened. For a moment, Nathan thought he might actually cause a scene, but then someone called Victor's name from across the room, and he forced his smile back into place. "We'll continue this conversation in court," Victor said. "Both of you." He walked away. Nathan waited until he was gone before exhaling. "What a piece of work. That's the man trying to take my daughter. Does he actually love Sophia, or is this just about hurting you?" Isabella's expression was hollow. "I don't think Victor knows the difference between loving someone and owning them." "Then we make damn sure he doesn't win." Isabella looked up at Nathan, something vulnerable and grateful in her eyes. "Thank you for what you said. I meant it. I know you did. That's what scares me." Before Nathan could ask what she meant, a photographer appeared asking for a photo. Isabella smoothly shifted into her public smile. Nathan stood beside her, his hand on her waist, trying to look like a man in love instead of a man in over his head. The camera flashed. "Beautiful couple," the photographer said. Nathan wondered if the camera caught the lie. Masham. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk and champagne Nathan didn't drink. Isabella stayed close to him, her hand in his or on his arm, touching him in small, deliberate ways that looked natural but felt calculated. Every gesture was for the cameras, for the witnesses, for the story they were building. But somewhere around midnight, something shifted. They were standing on the balcony, away from the crowd, looking out at the city lights. Isabella had kicked off her heels and was leaning against the railing, her shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "I hate these events," she muttered. "Then why do you come?" "Because if I don't, people assume I'm failing, struggling, weak. That's exhausting." "Yes." Nathan leaned against the railing beside her. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question, but..." "Why did you marry Victor in the first place?" Isabella was quiet for a long time. Then, Because I thought I was supposed to. My parents approved. The business made sense. He seemed stable.
Did you love him? I thought I did. Or maybe I just loved the idea of not being alone. And now? Isabella turned to look at him. Now I know the difference.
Between loving someone and not wanting to be alone? Between loving someone and being terrified they'll destroy you if you let them. Young. Nathan understood that, felt it in his bones. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I don't think you're weak. You barely know me. I know you're fighting like hell for your daughter. I know you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect her. That's not weak. That's the strongest thing a person can do.
Isabella's eyes glistened. She looked away quickly, blinking hard. I should have left him sooner, she whispered, before Sophia had to see all that anger, all that cruelty.
You left when you could. That's all that matters. Is it? Because Sophia still flinches when someone raises their voice. She still checks every room to make sure her father isn't there before she relaxes. I didn't protect her from that. Nathan thought about Mia, about the nights she'd cried herself to sleep after her mother died, about the times he'd failed her because he was too tired or too broke or too broken himself. None of us protect our kids from everything, he said. We just do the best we can and hope it's enough. Isabella wiped her eyes carefully, preserving her makeup. You're better at this than I expected. At what? Pretending to care. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she actually believed that this was all still an act to him. I'm not pretending, he said. Isabella's breath caught. Nathan,
I mean it. I didn't sign up to care about you or Sophia, but I do. And that terrifies me just as much as it probably terrifies you. This is temporary. I know. 1 year.
Then we go back to being strangers. I know. So why does this feel... She stopped herself. Feel what? Real? Isabella finished quietly. They stood there on the balcony, the city glittering below them, and Nathan realized he didn't have an answer to that, because it did feel real, too real, and he had no idea what to do about it. Isabella's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. We should go. It's late. Yeah. They walked back through the hotel, collected their coats, and rode home in silence. When they arrived at the mansion, the lights were off except for the ones in the upstairs hallway. Mrs. Chen met them at the door. Both girls are asleep, she reported. No problems. Thank you, Isabella said. Nathan walked upstairs and checked on Mia. She was curled up with Mr. Whiskers, breathing softly. He kissed her forehead and whispered goodnight. Then he went to his own room, took off the tuxedo, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. His phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Thank you for tonight. You were perfect. Nathan stared at the message, typed a response, deleted it, typed another. So were you. He hit send before he could second guess it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her response came through. Good night, Nathan. Good night. He lay down and stared at the ceiling, replaying the entire evening in his head. Victor's cold smile. The photographer's camera flash. Isabella's hand trembling in his. The moment on the balcony when she'd said the word real and everything had shifted. This was supposed to be simple. A business arrangement. A transaction. But somewhere between the mansion and the gala and the quiet conversations in the kitchen, something had changed. And Nathan was starting to realize that pretending to be in love with Isabella Laurent was becoming the easiest lie he'd ever told. Because it wasn't a lie anymore. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks away, and the tension in the mansion thickened with each passing day. Isabella worked longer hours, came home exhausted, and barely spoke at dinner. Nathan caught her staring at Sophia with this haunted look, like she was trying to memorize her daughter's face before someone ripped her away. It was breaking both of them. Nathan tried to help the only way he knew how, by being present. He picked up Sophia from school along with Mia, helped with homework, made dinner when Isabella worked late. Small things, normal things, the kind of things a real father would do. Sophia started calling him Nathan instead of Mr. Hayes. It felt like progress. Then one Tuesday afternoon, everything fell apart. Nathan was in the garage working on his truck when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Nathan Hayes? A woman's voice, professional, cold. Yeah, who's this? My name is Patricia Hendricks. I'm an investigator working with Victor Laurent's legal team. I have some questions about your marriage to Isabella Laurent. Nathan's stomach dropped. He walked out of the garage, away from the house. I'm not answering questions without a lawyer present. That's your right, but I should inform you that we've been conducting a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding your marriage. The timeline is quite interesting, Mr. Hayes. Isabella paid $304,000 to cover your father's medical expenses exactly 2 days before you filed for a marriage license. That's quite the coincidence. Nathan's blood ran cold. It's not illegal to help someone. No. But it does raise questions about the legitimacy of the marriage, especially when combined with the fact that you moved into her home immediately afterward with your daughter. No dating period. No engagement, just a sudden marriage to a woman who happens to be fighting for custody of her child. I don't have to explain my personal life to you. You'll have to explain it to a judge, under oath, very soon. Patricia's voice turned almost sympathetic. Mr. Hayes, I'm going to be honest with you. Victor Laurent is prepared to prove this marriage is fraudulent. He has financial records, photographs. Witness statements from people who've never seen you and Isabella together before this arrangement began. When this goes to court, you're going to be asked very specific questions about your relationship, how you met, when you fell in love, intimate details that should be easy to answer if the marriage is genuine. We met at work. We fell in love. We got married. That's all there is to it. Then you won't mind testifying to that effect? Not at all. Good, because my client intends to call you as a witness. And perjury carries serious consequences, Mr. Hayes, especially when a child's welfare is at stake. The line went dead. Nathan stood there in the driveway, his heart hammering, and realized just how badly this could go. He'd known the marriage was risky. He'd known Victor would investigate. But hearing the evidence laid out like that, cold, clinical, damning, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. They were going to destroy him on the stand. And when they did, Isabella would lose Sophia. He found Isabella in her home office, surrounded by legal documents, her eyes red from exhaustion, or crying, or both. We have a problem, Nathan said. Isabella looked up. What happened? Nathan told her about the call. Everything Patricia had said, every threat she'd made. By the time he finished, Isabella's face had gone pale. They're going to call you as a witness, she said quietly. I know. They're going to ask you when you fell in love with me. I know. And if you can't answer convincingly, we lose everything. Nathan sat down across from her. Then we make sure I can answer convincingly. So, how? We barely know each other, Nathan. We've been living in the same house for a month and we still don't even eat breakfast together unless the girls are there. Then that changes, starting now. Isabella shook her head. It's too late. They already have the financial records, the timeline, all the evidence they need to prove this is fake. But the evidence proves you helped me when I was desperate. It doesn't prove we're not in love. Love doesn't happen in 2 days, Nathan. No. But it can happen in a month or 6 weeks, or however long it takes for two broken people to realize they're better together than apart. Isabella stared at him. You can't possibly I'm not saying I'm in love with you, Nathan interrupted. I'm saying we need to act like I am. And you need to act like you are. Not just in public. Here. In this house. With each other. That's not what we agreed to. The agreement changed the moment Victor's investigator called me. We either commit to this completely or we both lose everything. Isabella stood up and walked to the window, her arms wrapped around herself. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Pretend to be in love. I was married to Victor for 8 years, and I don't think I ever convinced anyone we were actually happy. Then don't pretend, just be honest. About what? About why you're scared, why you're fighting so hard, why Sophia matters more to you than anything else in the world. Isabella's voice cracked. If I start being honest, I won't be able to stop. Maybe that's not a bad thing. She turned to look at him, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand. If I let my guard down, if I let myself actually feel everything I've been holding back, I'll fall apart. And I can't afford to fall apart right now. But get a ski. Nathan walked over to her, stood close enough that she could feel his presence but didn't touch her. You're already falling apart, Isabella. You're just doing it alone, and that's the problem. I've always been alone.
Not anymore. Isabella looked up at him, her expression raw and vulnerable. This isn't real, Nathan. Then we make it real. For Sophia. For Mia. For your father.
For all the reasons we agreed to this in the first place. And when the year is over, we figure it out then. Isabella wiped her eyes, smudging her makeup, looking more human than Nathan had ever seen her. I'm terrified. I know. I'm terrified I'm going to lose her. I'm terrified I'm going to drag you down with me. I'm terrified that even if we win, Sophia's going to grow up thinking love is just something people perform when they need to prove a point.
Then we show her it's not.
How? Nathan took a breath, made a decision he knew he couldn't take back. By actually trying. Not just for the court, for her, for both of them. Isabella searched his face like she was looking for proof he was lying. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. Because somewhere between the gala and the pancakes and watching you look at Sophia like she's the only thing in the world that matters, I started to care about what happens to both of you. And I don't know how to stop. The silence stretched between them. Then Isabella did something Nathan never expected. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his chest, and just broke down completely. Nathan held her. Let her cry. Let her shake. Let all the fear and exhaustion and anger pour out of her while he stood there and took the weight of it. I'm sorry, she whispered into his shirt. I'm so sorry. You don't have anything to apologize for. I dragged you into this mess, Ita. I walked into it willingly. Because you were desperate. So were you. Isabella pulled back slightly, looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. I don't know how to let someone help me. You're doing it right now. She almost smiled. Then her phone buzzed on the desk behind them. She pulled away reluctantly, checked the message, and her entire body went rigid. What is it? Nathan asked. Victor's lawyers just requested an emergency deposition. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. For who? Both of us. Nathan's stomach twisted. That's fast. He's pushing, trying to catch us off guard. Make us slip up before we can prepare. Then we prepare tonight. Isabella nodded, took a shaky breath, pulled herself back together piece by piece until the CEO mask was almost in place again, but not quite. Nathan could still see the cracks. We need to get our story straight, she said. Every detail. How we met. Our first conversation. When we realized we had feelings for each other. All of it. Okay. And Nathan? Yeah? Thank you for not running. Nathan wanted to tell her he'd thought about it, that some part of him still wanted to grab Mia and disappear before this whole thing exploded. But instead he just said, we're in this together now. Together, Isabella repeated, like she was testing the word. They spent the next 6 hours rehearsing their story. Isabella made coffee. Nathan ordered pizza. They sat at the kitchen table and built a relationship out of half-truths and strategic omissions. The first time they spoke was when Nathan was working on her car in the executive garage. Isabella had come down personally because her assistant was sick. They talked about the engine, then about Mia, then about Sophia. The conversation had felt easy, natural. That part was true. It had happened exactly once, 3 months before the marriage proposal. Their first date was dinner at a quiet restaurant neither of them could name specifically because it was fictional. But they described it in detail anyway. What they ordered, what they talked about, how Isabella had laughed at something Nathan said, and he'd realized he wanted to hear that sound again. The moment Nathan realized he loved her was watching her with Sophia and Mia together, seeing how hard she tried to be present even when she was exhausted. That part was also true, just not in the timeline they were claiming. What about me? Isabella asked. When did I fall in love with you? Nathan thought about it. When I fixed your sink without being asked. Isabella blinked. What? Oh, that morning in the kitchen, when you found me under the cabinet and got mad that I was doing household repairs. You said you were surprised, like nobody had ever just done something for you without expecting payment or recognition. That's not falling in love, that's just basic decency. Maybe, but it mattered to you, I could see it. As Isabella looked away. I'm not used to people doing things just because they want to help.
I know, and
Victor never did anything unless there was something in it for him. I'm not Victor. Isabella met his eyes. No, you're not. The conversation shifted after that, got quieter, more honest. They talked about their marriages. Nathan's wife had died in a car accident when Mia was 2. Sudden, violent, no warning. He'd spent years being angry at the universe for taking her. Then one day he'd woken up and realized he couldn't be angry and be a good father at the same time. So he'd chosen Mia. Isabella's marriage had been different, slow erosion. Victor had been charming at first, attentive. But after Sophia was born, something changed. He started drinking more, criticizing more, controlling every aspect of Isabella's life until she barely recognized herself. He told me I was cold, Isabella said quietly, that I didn't know how to love anyone, that Sophia deserved a real mother, not someone who treated parenting like a business transaction. That's not true, isn't it? I schedule time with my daughter like she's a client meeting. I outsource her care to nannies and tutors because I don't know how to just be with her without an agenda. You're learning. I'm failing.
you're trying. That's more than Victor ever did. Isabella's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and sighed. The lawyers want to meet at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
Prep session before the deposition. I'll be ready. Nathan? Yeah? What if we lose? The question hung in the air between them. Nathan thought about Sophia's smile, about the way she'd started trusting him, about Mia's laugh when the two girls played together. We won't, he said. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to make sure it doesn't happen. Isabella nodded slowly. Then she stood, gathered her papers, and paused at the doorway. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Ma. She walked away. Nathan sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the notes they'd made, and wondered if any of it would be enough. Mom. The deposition took place in a conference room that smelled like leather and expensive coffee. Victor's lawyers sat on one side of the table, crisp and predatory. Isabella's legal team sat on the other, equally polished but visibly tense. Nathan and Isabella sat together, their hands clasped under the table where nobody could see them shaking. Patricia Hendricks led the questioning. She started with softballs, Nathan's full name, his employment history, his daughter's age. Easy things designed to make him comfortable before the real interrogation began. Then she leaned forward and smiled. Mr. Hayes, when did you first meet Isabella Laurent? Nathan kept his voice steady. About 3 months before we got married. She came down to the executive garage because her assistant was out. We talked while I worked on her car. And what did you talk about? The engine at first, then our daughters. Did you find her attractive? Nathan hesitated. That wasn't in the script. I'm sorry? It's a simple question. Did you find Isabella Laurent physically attractive when you first met her? Isabella's lawyer started to object, but Nathan cut him off. Yes, I did. And did you pursue her romantically at that time? No. Why not? Because she was my boss's boss. And I had no reason to think she'd be interested in someone like me. Someone like you, Patricia repeated. Meaning someone from a different social class? Meaning someone covered in grease who barely made enough to pay rent. But you were interested. I was aware she existed. That's different from being interested. Patricia made a note. When did you start dating? We ran into each other at Sophia's school a few weeks later. My daughter goes there too. We talked again. I asked if she wanted to get coffee, and she said yes. She did. Whoop. Wasn't that inappropriate, given that she owned the company you worked for? We kept it private, didn't tell anyone at work. How convenient. Patricia flipped through her papers. Mr. Hayes, I have bank records showing that Isabella Laurent paid $304,000 to Mercy General Hospital on your father's behalf on April 7th. You applied for a marriage license on April 9th, 2 days later. Don't you find that timing suspicious? Nathan's jaw tightened. Isabella knew my father was sick. She offered to help. I was grateful. Grateful enough to marry her?
Gracias.
I married her because I loved her. Love? Patricia's eyebrows rose. You fell in love in a matter of weeks? Yes. That's quite fast. When you meet the right person,
you know.
Or when you need $300,000, you're willing to say whatever's necessary. Isabella's lawyer slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. You're badgering the witness. Wow, such mishy you bets. I'm establishing motive, Patricia countered. Mr. Hayes clearly had significant financial incentive to enter into this marriage. The question is whether it was a genuine relationship or a transaction. It's genuine, Nathan said firmly. Then tell me something intimate about your wife, something only a real husband would know. Nathan's mind raced. He looked at Isabella, saw the fear in her eyes, and made another choice he couldn't take back. She has nightmares, he said quietly, about losing Sophia. She wakes up at 3 in the morning and checks on her daughter to make sure she's still there. She blames herself for staying with Victor as long as she did. She thinks she failed Sophia by not leaving sooner, and she's terrified that even if she wins this custody case, Sophia will grow up hating her anyway. The room went silent. Patricia stared at him. How do you know that? Because she told me. In the middle of the night, when she couldn't sleep and came downstairs and found me awake too. That's what married people do. They tell each other the things that scare them. And what did you tell her? Nathan swallowed hard. That I'm terrified I'm screwing up my daughter every single day. That I don't know how to be both parents. That I worry Mia's going to grow up resenting me for not being able to give her the life her mother would have wanted. Oh, and what did Isabella say? She said we were doing the best we could, and that maybe that's enough. Patricia studied him for a long moment. Then she shifted tactics. Let's talk about your living arrangements. You moved into Isabella's home immediately after the marriage, correct? Yes. Do you share a bedroom? Nathan froze. They hadn't discussed this, hadn't planned for it. That's invasive, Isabella's lawyer interjected. It's relevant. If this is a genuine marriage, they should be sharing a bedroom, unless it's a marriage of convenience. All eyes turned to Nathan. He felt the weight of the question turn to the trap in it. If he said no, it proved the marriage was fake. If he said yes, they'd find a way to verify it. Staff, photographs, something. We have separate bedrooms, Nathan said carefully. Isabella has trouble sleeping. She works late. I wake up early. We found it was easier to have our own spaces. How convenient. It's practical. Or it's evidence that this isn't a real marriage at all. Nathan leaned forward. You want to know if this marriage is real? Ask Isabella what I made for dinner last Tuesday. Ask me what book Sophia's reading. Ask either of us what Mia's favorite color is, or what time Sophia's ballet class was before she quit. We know those things because we're living them, every single day. That's what makes a family real, not what bedroom you sleep in. Patricia didn't respond, just made more notes. The deposition continued for another 2 hours. They grilled Isabella next, asking the same questions from different angles, looking for contradictions. But she and Nathan had rehearsed well. Their stories matched. Their timelines aligned. They sold it. When it finally ended, Nathan felt like he'd been hit by a truck. They walked out to the parking garage in silence. Isabella's legal team had already left. It was just the two of them. That was brutal, Nathan said. You did well. I made up half of it. The parts that mattered were true. Nathan looked at her. The nightmares? Isabella unlocked her car. I didn't know you knew about those. I hear you sometimes, walking around downstairs at 3 a.m. I didn't realize I was that loud. You're not. I just don't sleep well either. They stood there in the dim garage, two people who'd just lied under oath to protect their daughters, and Nathan realized he'd meant every word he'd said in that room. What happens now? He asked. We wait. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Victor's team will try to tear apart our testimony. We'll have to prove everything we said today was true. And if we can't? Isabella's expression hardened. Then I lose my daughter, and you get charged with perjury. Fantastic. I'm sorry. I never should have asked you to do this. Stop apologizing, Nathan said. I knew what I was signing up for. Did you? Because I don't think either of us realized how far we'd have to go. Nathan thought about the moment in the deposition when he'd described her nightmares, the look on her face when he'd gotten it right, the way his heart had stuttered when she'd smiled at him afterward. No, he admitted. I don't think we did. Isabella climbed into her car. Nathan walked to his truck. They drove home separately, maintaining the careful distance they'd built over the past month. But something had shifted in that deposition room. Some line they'd crossed without meaning to. And Nathan was starting to realize that pretending to love Isabella Laurent was becoming impossible, because somewhere along the way, it had stopped being pretend. Dinner that night was quiet. The girls sensed the tension and ate quickly before disappearing upstairs. Nathan helped Isabella clean up, the silence between them heavy and complicated. "I meant what I said today," Nathan said finally. "About the nightmares." Isabella didn't look at him. "I know. And about Mia. About being terrified I'm screwing her up. I know that too." "Do you? Because sometimes I feel like you think I have everything figured out." Isabella turned to face him. "You do have it figured out. You're a good father. Mia adores you. You've given her stability and love and everything she needs. I've given her frozen dinners and hand-me-down clothes and an apartment that smells like engine oil. You've given her yourself. That's more than most parents manage." Nathan set down the dish he was holding. "Is that what Victor did? Made you feel like you weren't enough?" Isabella's expression crumbled. "Every single day. He's wrong." "Is he?" "I missed Sophia's first steps because I was in a board meeting. I forgot her 4th birthday because I was negotiating a merger. I've spent more time building a company than building a relationship with my own daughter. And now you're fighting to fix that. That counts for something. Does it? Or am I just a rich woman trying to buy her way out of consequences?" Nathan grabbed her shoulders, forced her to look at him. "Stop. You're not Victor. You're not your mistakes. You're a mother who's scared and doing everything she can to protect her kid. That makes you human, not a failure." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Accept help, trust someone, let myself believe this might actually work." "Then don't think about it, just let it happen." "I don't know how." Nathan pulled her into a hug. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, letting him hold her while she cried for the second time that day. "We're going to get through this," Nathan whispered. "Both of us. Together." Isabella nodded against his chest, didn't pull away. And for the first time since this whole mess started, Nathan let himself believe they might actually have a chance. The 2 weeks before the custody hearing felt like living inside a pressure cooker. Isabella worked from home more often, her office door closed, her voice tight whenever she spoke to her lawyers. Nathan kept his distance during the day, gave her space to prepare. But every evening they came together for dinner with the girls and pretended everything was fine. The girls didn't buy it. Sophia got quieter, started checking the hallway before she left her room, like she was waiting for her father to appear and drag her away. Mia stuck close to Nathan, asking questions he didn't know how to answer. "Are we going to stay here? Is Sophia okay? Are you and Miss Laurent fighting?" "We're not fighting," Nathan told her one night while tucking her in. "We're just worried." "About what?" "Adult stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." "Ah, shit." Mia looked at him with those too smart eyes. "Is Sophia's dad going to take her away?" Nathan's chest tightened. "We're not going to let that happen." "But what if you can't stop it? Then we'll figure something else out. But Mia, listen to me. No matter what happens, you and Sophia can still be friends. Nobody can take that away." Mia hugged Mr. Whiskers tighter. "I don't want her to leave." "I know, baby. Neither do I. But After Mia fell asleep, Nathan found Isabella standing outside Sophia's room, just watching her daughter sleep through the cracked door. "She's having nightmares again," Isabella whispered. "About Victor, about the old house, about all the fighting. Did you talk to her?" "What am I supposed to say? That everything's going to be okay? I don't know if that's true." Nathan stood beside her. "You tell her you love her and that you're fighting for her. Kids don't need promises. They need to know you're trying." Isabella closed the door softly. What if trying isn't enough? It has to be. They stood in the hallway, close enough that Nathan could smell her perfume, and he realized he'd memorized it without meaning to. Memorized a lot of things about her, the way she took her coffee, the sound of her footsteps on the stairs at 3 a.m, the exact shade of worry in her eyes when she thought no one was looking. "Nathan? Yeah? In the deposition, when you talked about my nightmares, how did you know all of that?" Nathan hesitated. "I pay attention. To me, To everything. It's how I'm wired. Isabella studied him for a long moment. You never talk about yourself, about what you're feeling. There's nothing to talk about. That's not true. You're about to testify in court. You could be charged with perjury if this goes wrong. Doesn't that scare you? Terrifies me. Then why are you so calm? Nathan looked at her directly. Because being scared doesn't change anything. We either win or we don't. Falling apart before the hearing doesn't help anyone. Is that what you think I'm doing? Falling apart? I think you're holding on so tight you're going to break something. And I think you need to let someone else carry some of the weight before that happens. Isabella's eyes glistened. I don't know how. Start small. Tell me one thing you're scared of that you haven't said out loud yet. She looked away. I'm scared that even if we win, Sophia's going to grow up and realize what we did. That we lied to everyone. That our marriage was fake. And she's going to hate me for it. She won't. How do you know? Because she'll understand you did what you had to do to protect her. Kids forgive their parents for a lot of things, but they don't forgive parents who don't fight for them. Isabella wiped her eyes. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's made enough mistakes to recognize bad choices when I see them. And this wasn't a bad choice, Isabella. Desperate, maybe. Complicated, definitely. But not bad. Even if it destroys both of us? It's not going to destroy us. You can't promise that. Nathan stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. No, but I can promise I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens in that courtroom. Why? Isabella's voice broke. Why do you care so much? Nathan didn't have a good answer for that, or maybe he did and just wasn't ready to say it out loud. So instead he just said, because you're not alone in this anymore, and neither am I. Isabella reached up and touched his face, her fingers trembling against his jaw. I'm sorry I dragged you into this mess. Stop apologizing. I can't, because you deserved better than this. Better than me using you to save myself. You didn't use me. You gave me a choice. I made it. But if you'd known, Nathan caught her hand, held it against his face. I'd still choose this, even knowing how hard it would be. Isabella's breath hitched. For a moment, Nathan thought she might kiss him. The air between them felt charged, dangerous, like one wrong move would change everything. But then a door opened down the hall, and they both stepped back quickly. Sophia appeared, rubbing her eyes. Mom? Isabella was at her daughter's side in seconds. What's wrong, sweetheart? Is at her. Bad dream. Do you want to sleep in my room tonight? Sophia nodded. Isabella scooped her up, even though she was getting too big for it, and carried her toward the master bedroom. She glanced back at Nathan once, something unspoken in her eyes, then disappeared behind the door. Nathan stood alone in the hallway and tried to catch his breath. This was getting too real, too complicated, too close to something he couldn't afford to feel. He went downstairs, made coffee, even though it was past midnight, and sat at the kitchen table trying to convince himself he hadn't just almost kissed his fake wife. The morning of the custody hearing arrived cold and gray. Nathan put on the same suit he'd worn to the gala, tied his tie 3 times before getting it right, and stared at himself in the mirror trying to see what the judge would see. A mechanic in expensive clothes, a poor man pretending to belong in a billionaire's world, a liar. Mia knocked on his door. You look handsome, Dad. Nathan turned. Thanks, baby. Are you nervous? Yeah. Me too, Mom. Nathan knelt down to her level. Hey, no matter what happens today, we're going to be okay. You understand that? Mia nodded, but her eyes were scared. What if they take Sophia away? Then we'll figure out how to help her, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. Promise? Nathan hugged her tight. I promise I'll try my best. Isabella appeared in the doorway, already dressed in a sharp black suit, her hair pulled back severe and professional. But Nathan could see the fear underneath all that armor. The car's here, she said quietly. Nathan stood. Girls, Mrs. Chen is going to stay with you today. Be good for her, okay? Both Mia and Sophia nodded. They looked so small standing there, holding hands, trying to be brave. Sophia ran to Isabella and hugged her. Don't let Dad take me. Isabella's composure cracked. She knelt down and held her daughter like she might never get another chance. I won't, sweetheart. I promise. What if the judge says I have to go? Then I'll appeal. I'll fight until there's nothing left to fight with. But I won't let you go. Sophia pulled back, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Mom. I love you too. So much. Nathan watched them and felt something break open in his chest. This wasn't about contracts or money or strategy anymore. This was about a mother fighting for her child, and he was going to do everything in his power to help her win. The drive to the courthouse was silent. Isabella stared out the window, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles had gone white. Nathan wanted to reach for her, offer some kind of comfort, but didn't know if he had the right. Isabella? Yeah? We're going to win this. She didn't look at him. You don't know that. No, but I believe it, and you need to believe it too. I'm trying. Try harder. That got her attention. She turned to look at him, her expression sharp. Excuse me? You heard me. You're already acting like you've lost. Like the judge is going to take one look at us and see right through everything. But if you walk in there looking defeated, we're done before we start. I'm not defeated. Wait, then stop acting like it. You're Isabella Laurent. You built a company from nothing. You survived a marriage to a manipulative bastard who tried to destroy you. You're not some victim waiting for judgment. You're a fighter, so fight. Isabella stared at him, something shifting in her eyes. Then slowly, she straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. The CEO mask slid back into place, but this time there was steel underneath it. You're right, she said. I usually am. What is she okay? She almost smiled. Don't let it go to your head. The courthouse steps were crawling with photographers. Nathan hadn't expected that. Isabella's lawyer had warned them the case was attracting media attention, but seeing the cameras in person made it real in a way nothing else had. Stay close to me, Isabella murmured. Don't answer any questions, just keep walking. Nathan took her hand. Her fingers were ice cold. He squeezed gently, felt her squeeze back, and they walked up those steps together while cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions they didn't answer. Inside, the courthouse was all marble and echoes. Victor was already there with his legal team, looking smug and confident. He saw Nathan and Isabella, and his smile sharpened. Isabella, Mr. Hayes, ready for your performance? Isabella's lawyer stepped between them. Save it for the courtroom, Victor. Oh, I intend to. Victor's gaze shifted to Nathan. I hope you've been practicing your lines. Perjury is a serious offense. Nathan kept his expression neutral. I don't need to practice the truth. The truth. Right. Victor laughed. We'll see how well your truth holds up under cross-examination. They were separated before Nathan could respond. Isabella's legal team ushered them into a conference room for final prep, while Victor and his lawyers disappeared down another hallway. The next hour was a blur of strategy and warnings. Don't volunteer information. Answer only what's asked. Stay calm. Make eye contact. Remember, you're in love. Remember, you're in love. Nathan almost laughed at that, because the problem wasn't remembering. The problem was that somewhere along the way, it had stopped being an act. When they finally entered the courtroom, Nathan's stomach was in knots. The judge was a stern-looking woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Nathan and Isabella with obvious skepticism. Victor's lawyer stood first. Her name was Margaret Chen, and she was exactly what Nathan expected. Polished, ruthless, prepared. Your Honor, this case is about a child's welfare, about whether Sophia Laurent is better served living with her mother, Isabella Laurent, or with her father, Victor Laurent. Mr. Laurent is concerned that his daughter is living in an unstable environment created by his ex-wife's recent marriage to Nathan Hayes, a marriage that, upon investigation, appears to be fraudulent. Isabella's lawyer objected immediately. Your Honor, there's no evidence. We have plenty of evidence, Margaret interrupted. Financial records showing Isabella Laurent paid over $300,000 for Mr. Hayes' father's medical expenses 2 days before they applied for a marriage license. Testimony from employees stating they never saw the couple together before the marriage.
photos showing separate bedrooms in the Laurent estate. This marriage is a sham designed to make Miss Laurent appear more stable and family-oriented than she actually is. The judge looked at Isabella. Miss Laurent, how do you respond to these allegations? Isabella stood. Her voice was steady. Your Honor, I helped Nathan because his father was dying and he had no way to pay for treatment. The fact that I later fell in love with him doesn't make that help inappropriate. As for our living arrangements, we maintain separate bedrooms because we both have demanding schedules and found it practical. But I can assure you this marriage is genuine. Can you? The judge didn't sound convinced. Because from where I'm sitting, this looks very convenient. You're fighting for custody, and suddenly you're married with a blended family. The timing raises questions. I understand that, Your Honor, but the timeline doesn't invalidate the relationship. We'll see. The judge looked at the lawyers. Call your first witness. Margaret smiled. The defense calls Nathan Hayes to the stand. Nathan's heart stopped. He'd known this was coming, but it still hit like a punch. He stood, walked to the witness stand, and swore to tell the truth. The whole truth. Nothing but the truth. He looked at Isabella and saw raw fear in her eyes. Then Margaret began her attack. Mr. Hayes, how much debt were you in when you met Isabella Laurent? Nathan kept his voice level. Around $50,000. And your father's medical bills? Over $300,000. That's quite a burden for a mechanic making $32 an hour. Yes, it was. Desperate even? I was scared, if that's what you mean by desperate. Scared enough to marry a stranger? I didn't marry a stranger. I married someone I'd gotten to know. In a matter of weeks. Yes. Margaret pulled out a document. These are phone records, Mr. Hayes. They show you and Isabella Laurent exchanged exactly 7 text messages and 3 phone calls in the 2 months before you got married. Does that sound like a couple in love? Nathan's mind raced. We saw each other in person. We didn't need to text constantly. Where did you see each other? At her house, at the school when we picked up our daughters. And yet none of the school staff remember seeing you together before the marriage. We were discreet. Or you weren't together at all. Margaret stepped closer. Isn't it true, Mr. Hayes, that you agreed to this marriage in exchange for Isabella paying your debts? Isn't it true that you signed a contract outlining the financial terms of this arrangement? Nathan froze. The contract. He'd forgotten about the actual written agreement, and apparently Victor's lawyers had found it. Margaret held up papers. Your Honor, I'd like to submit into evidence the marital contract signed by both parties. It clearly outlines a 1-year term, financial compensation, and conditions for dissolution. This isn't a marriage. It's a business transaction. The courtroom erupted. Isabella's lawyer was shouting objections. The judge was banging her gavel. But all Nathan could hear was the sound of everything falling apart. Mr. Hayes, the judge said sharply, did you sign this contract? Nathan looked at Isabella. She had tears streaming down her face. He could lie, say the contract was fake, commit perjury, and hope they couldn't prove it. Or he could tell the truth and watch Isabella lose her daughter. Yes, Nathan said quietly. I signed it. The courtroom went silent. But it's not what you think, Nathan continued, his voice getting stronger. Yes, we started this as an arrangement. Isabella needed a stable partner for the custody case. I needed help with my father's medical bills. We agreed to a marriage of convenience. That's all true. Then you admit the marriage is fraudulent, Margaret said triumphantly. No. Nathan turned to look at the judge. Because something happened we didn't expect. We fell in love. Margaret scoffed. How convenient. It's not convenient. It's complicated and messy and terrifying. But it's real. Nathan looked at Isabella. When I signed that contract, I thought I was agreeing to play a part, pretend to be a husband, go through the motions. But then I moved into her house and met her daughter and saw how hard Isabella fights for the people she loves. I saw her at 3 a.m. checking on Sophia because she's terrified something will happen to her. I saw her cry because she thinks she's failed as a mother, even though she's one of the strongest people I've ever met. And somewhere in all of that, I stopped pretending. The judge leaned forward.
You expect me to believe you fell in love during a business arrangement? I expect you to believe that people are more complicated than contracts. Yes, we started this for the wrong reasons, but we're here now for the right ones. Because we care about those two little girls more than we care about protecting ourselves. And because somewhere along the way, this fake marriage became the realest thing in my life. Margaret jumped in. Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of performance we expected. Emotional manipulation designed to— I'm not performing, Nathan interrupted. I'm telling you the truth, the whole truth. Yes, I signed a contract. Yes, I was desperate. Yes, this marriage started as a lie. But it's not a lie anymore. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself this. Would I be sitting here admitting to all of it if I was just trying to save myself? I could have denied the contract, lied under oath. But I didn't. Because Isabella taught me that sometimes the truth is the only thing worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge studied Nathan for a long moment. Step down, Mr. Hayes. Nathan walked back to his seat on shaking legs. Isabella grabbed his hand under the table and held on like she was drowning. Did I just destroy everything? Nathan whispered. I don't know, Isabella whispered back. But that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. The judge called for a recess. Everyone stood. Victor's lawyers looked smug. Isabella's team looked worried. And Nathan sat there wondering if he'd just saved their family or destroyed it completely. Outside in the hallway, Isabella pulled Nathan into an empty conference room and closed the door. Why did you tell them about the contract? She asked, her voice shaking. Because they already knew, and lying would have made it worse. They're going to use it against me. Maybe. Or maybe they'll see that we're actually being honest for the first time since this whole thing started. Isabella paced the small room. I'm going to lose her. I'm going to lose Sophia because I was too proud and too scared to admit I needed help the right way. You're not going to lose her. You don't know that? No, but I believe it. And you need to believe it too. Isabella stopped pacing, looked at him with eyes full of pain. You said you fell in love with me. I did. Did you mean it? Or was that just part of the testimony? No, say that. Nathan crossed the room and cupped her face in his hands. I meant it, every word. Nathan, I know this is the worst possible timing. I know we're in the middle of a custody hearing and everything is falling apart. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. I love you, Isabella. Not because of some contract. Not because I'm playing a part. Because you're brilliant and terrified and stronger than you think. And because watching you fight for Sophia made me remember what it means to fight for something that matters. Isabella's tears spilled over. This is insane. Yeah, it really is. We're going to lose. Maybe. But at least we'll lose telling the truth. Isabella kissed him. It was desperate and scared and real. Nathan kissed her back, pouring everything he couldn't say into it, and for just a moment the rest of the world disappeared. Then someone knocked on the door, and they broke apart. They're ready for closing arguments. Isabella's lawyer called through the door. Isabella wiped her eyes, fixed her hair, rebuilt her armor piece by piece. Ready? Nathan asked. No, but let's do this anyway. They walked back into the courtroom together, still holding hands, and faced the judge who would decide their fate. The closing arguments felt like they lasted forever, and no time at all. Victor's lawyer painted Isabella as a cold, calculating businesswoman who'd bought herself a husband to win a custody case. Isabella's lawyer countered that love didn't follow schedules or contracts, that unconventional beginnings didn't invalidate genuine feelings, that the only thing that mattered was whether Sophia was safe and loved. The judge listened to everything with an unreadable expression. When both sides finished, she looked at Victor, then at Isabella, then at Nathan. I'm going to take a 30-minute recess to review the evidence and testimony, she said. When I return, I'll deliver my ruling. 30 minutes. That's all the time Nathan and Isabella had left before their entire world either held together or shattered completely. They sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, neither of them speaking. Isabella's leg bounced nervously. Nathan stared at the floor. Around them, other families waited for their own cases, their own verdicts, their own versions of hope and despair. I should call home, Isabella said finally. Check on the girls. They're fine. Mrs. Chen knows what she's doing. I know, but I need to hear Sophia's voice. Isabella stepped away to make the call. Nathan watched her through the window, saw her face crumble when Sophia answered, saw her wipe tears away quickly before Sophia could hear them in her voice. When she came back, her eyes were red, but her expression was steady. She asked when we're coming home, Isabella said quietly. What did you tell her? That we'd be there soon. I didn't know what else to say. Nathan wanted to promise her everything would be okay, but the words felt hollow now. So instead, he just took her hand and held it. Victor appeared at the end of the hallway, his lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. He looked at Isabella with something that might have been regret or might have been triumph. It was hard to tell. Isabella, he called out, can we talk? Alone? Isabella tensed. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Nathan. Victor's jaw tightened. Fine, I'm willing to make a deal. What kind of deal? Drop this marriage charade, admit it's fake, and I'll settle for joint custody instead of pushing for full. Isabella's grip on Nathan's hand turned painful. No. Be reasonable. You heard the judge. She's skeptical. You're going to lose anyway. At least this way, Sophia gets both parents. Both parents, Isabella repeated, her voice sharp. You mean the father who screamed at her mother in front of her? Who used her as a weapon in every argument? Who told her I didn't love her every time I had to work late? I made mistakes. I'm trying to fix them. By taking her away from me? By giving her stability, something you clearly can't provide on your own. Nathan stood up. She's not on her own. She has me. Victor laughed. For how long? Until your contract expires? Until you realize this arrangement isn't worth the money anymore? The money never mattered. Please, you were drowning in debt. You would have done anything to save your father. You're right. I would have. But that's not why I'm here now. Victor's expression turned ugly. You're here because Isabella pays well. Don't pretend this is some fairy tale love story. You're a mechanic who got lucky. Nothing more. And you're a bitter man who can't accept that your ex-wife moved on, Nathan shot back. You don't want Sophia because you love her. You want her because losing custody means admitting Isabella was right to leave you. This whole case is just your ego in expensive legal packaging. Victor stepped forward. For a second, Nathan thought he might actually throw a punch, but Isabella moved between them, her voice cold and final. We're not making a deal, Victor. See you in court. Bucking Amitri Stem. She walked away without looking back. Nathan followed, leaving Victor standing alone in the hallway, looking smaller than he had any right to be. That felt good, Isabella admitted once they were around the corner. Which part? All of it. Standing up to him, telling him no, not letting him manipulate me into giving up. You should do it more often. I plan to. They returned to the courtroom as the judge walked back in. Everyone stood. Nathan's heart hammered so hard he could feel it in his throat. Isabella's hand found his again under the table. Their fingers laced together and they waited. The judge settled into her seat, adjusted her glasses, and looked directly at Isabella. This is one of the more unusual cases I've presided over, she began. A marriage that started as a contract, a mother fighting for custody, a father claiming instability, and two lawyers arguing about whether love can be real when it starts from desperation. Nathan held his breath. I've reviewed all the evidence, the financial records, the timeline, the testimony, and I've come to a conclusion. The judge paused. Miss Laurent, your marriage to Mr. Hayes may have begun unconventionally, but that doesn't automatically make it fraudulent. People enter into relationships for all kinds of reasons. Security, companionship, mutual benefit. What matters is whether those relationships become genuine over time. Isabella's nails dug into Nathan's palm. Mr. Hayes' testimony was compelling. More importantly, it was honest. He could have denied the contract, lied under oath, protected himself. Instead, he told the truth, even knowing it could cost him everything. That kind of honesty is rare in my courtroom. Salati Bashidad. The judge looked at Victor. Mr. Laurent, I understand your concerns about your daughter's living situation. However, the evidence doesn't support your claims of instability. Sophia's thriving in her mother's care. Her grades have improved. Her teachers report she's more engaged in class. And the home study conducted by social services found no evidence of neglect or inappropriate behavior. Victor's lawyer stood. Your Honor, the contract clearly shows... The contract shows that two people made an agreement, the judge interrupted. What it doesn't show is what happened after. And based on the testimony I've heard, what happened after was genuine care, genuine partnership, and genuine love. Unconventional, yes, but not fraudulent. Nathan's chest loosened slightly. Isabella's breath came out in a shaky exhale. Therefore, the judge continued, I'm ruling in favor of Isabella Laurent. Primary custody remains with the mother. Victor Laurent will have visitation rights every other weekend and alternating holidays, pending completion of family counseling sessions. The gavel came down. Isabella collapsed against Nathan, sobbing. He held her while she shook, while relief and shock and joy poured out of her all at once. Around them, her legal team was celebrating, shaking hands, gathering papers. But Nathan only cared about the woman falling apart in his arms. We won, Isabella whispered. We actually won. Yeah, we did. She pulled back, her face streaked with tears and mascara, looking more beautiful than Nathan had ever seen her. You saved us. What you said on that stand, you saved everything. We saved each other. Isabella kissed him right there in the courtroom, in front of lawyers and strangers, and the judge who'd just ruled in their favor. Nathan kissed her back, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except this moment. When they finally broke apart, Victor was gone. His lawyers were packing up their briefcases, their expressions sour. The judge was already calling the next case. Let's go home, Isabella said. Yeah, let's go home. They walked out of that courthouse into bright afternoon sunlight, and Nathan felt like he could breathe for the first time in weeks. The drive back to the mansion passed in a blur. Isabella called ahead to tell Mrs. Chen they'd won, her voice breaking with emotion. When they pulled into the driveway, both girls were waiting on the front steps. Sophia ran to her mother before the car even stopped moving. Isabella caught her, lifted her up even though she was getting too big for it, and held on like she had never let go. I'm staying? Sophia asked, her voice small and scared. You're staying, baby, forever. Sophia buried her face in Isabella's neck and started crying. Happy tears this time. Relief tears. The kind that come when you've been holding your breath for so long you forgot what air felt like. Mia ran to Nathan, wrapped her arms around his waist. Did we win, Dad? We won, baby. So we get to stay here with Sophia and Miss Laurent? Nathan looked at Isabella over Mia's head, saw the question in her eyes, the fear that maybe now that the custody case was over, he'd want to leave, go back to their old life, honor the contract they'd signed. Yeah, Nathan said, still looking at Isabella. We get to stay. That night, after those girls were asleep and the adrenaline had finally worn off, Nathan found Isabella standing on the back terrace looking out at the gardens. She'd changed out of her court clothes into jeans and a sweater, her hair down, her face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked younger, softer, real. Can't sleep? Nathan asked, walking up beside her. Too wired, my brain won't shut off. Mine either. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds. Crickets, wind in the trees, the distant hum of traffic from the highway. Nathan? Yeah? What happens now? And Nathan knew what she was asking. The custody case was over. The contract had a year left on it. They could keep pretending until the time ran out, then divorce quietly and go their separate ways. That had always been the plan. But the plan had changed somewhere along the way. I don't know, Nathan admitted. What do you want to happen? Isabella turned to face him. I want to ask you to stay. Not because of the contract, not because we're supposed to, but because I don't want to do this without you anymore. Do what? Any of it. Raise Sophia, run the company. Figure out how to be a person instead of just a title. I'm better when you're here, and I think you know that. Nathan's heart stuttered. Isabella, I know the contract says 1 year. I know we agreed to walk away after that, but I don't want to walk away. I want to figure out how to make this real. Actually real. No more pretending. No more contracts, just us. You're asking me to stay. I'm asking you to marry me. Again. For real this time. Nathan stared at her. We're already married. Legally, yes. But that marriage started as a lie. I want one that starts with the truth. That I love you. That I want you in my life. That I want us to be a real family. What about Sophia? What do we tell her? The truth. That we started this arrangement to protect her. That we fell in love along the way. That sometimes the best things in life come from the messiest circumstances. Nathan thought about his daughter asleep upstairs, about Sophia in the room next to hers, about the life they'd built in this house over the past few months. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what he'd planned, but it was real, and it was theirs. I don't have a ring, Nathan said. Isabella smiled. Yes, you do. She pulled a small box from her pocket. Inside was a simple gold band. Nothing flashy, nothing expensive, just honest metal that looked like it belonged on a mechanic's hand. I had it made last week, Isabella admitted, when I realized I didn't want this to end. I was going to wait until after the hearing, but then you stood up in that courtroom and told the truth, and I knew I wanted this to be real. Nathan took the ring from the box. It fit perfectly. You're serious about this, he said. Completely. No more contracts, no more arrangements. Just us, T. Nathan kissed her. Slow and deep and certain. When they broke apart, Isabella was crying again, but this time she was smiling too. Is that a yes? She asked. That's a yes. They stood on the terrace holding each other while the world kept spinning around them, and Nathan realized something he should have known from the beginning. Love didn't care about plans. It didn't care about contracts or timelines or whether two people made sense on paper. It just happened. Messy and complicated and real. And sometimes, if you were lucky, it saved you. The next morning, Nathan and Isabella called both girls into the living room. Sophia looked nervous. Mia looked curious. Neither of them knew what was coming. We need to talk to you about something important, Isabella began. Are we in trouble? Sophia asked immediately. No, sweetheart, nothing like that. But we do need to be honest with you about something. Nathan took over. When Isabella and I got married, it wasn't for the reason we told you. We didn't meet and fall in love the normal way. We made an agreement. She helped my father when he was sick, and I agreed to pretend to be her husband to help with the custody case. Both girls stared at them. Mia's eyes went wide. Sophia's expression crumbled. You lied? Sophia whispered. Yes, Isabella said. We lied. And we're sorry. We thought we were protecting you, but we should have been honest from the start. So you're not really married? Mia asked. We are married, legally. But it started as pretend. Nathan crouched down to their level. But here's the thing. Somewhere along the way, it stopped being pretend. We actually fell in love, for real this time. How do we know you're not lying now? Sophia's voice was sharp, hurt. Isabella reached for her daughter's hand. Sophia pulled away. You don't have to believe us right away, Isabella said softly. I understand if you're angry, if you don't trust us. We broke your trust, and we have to earn it back. But I need you to know that what I feel for Nathan is real. And what we've built here, the four of us, that's real too. Sophia looked at Mia. Did you know? Kind of, Mia admitted. Dad told me we were helping Ms. Laurent, but I didn't know it was fake. I thought it was just grown-up complicated. Everything is grown-up complicated, Sophia muttered. Yeah, it kind of is. Sophia looked at her mother, then at Nathan, then back at Mia. So what happens now? Are you getting divorced for real? No, Nathan said. Actually, we want to get married again, the right way this time, with you both there, if you're okay with that. Why would we be okay with it? You lied to us. You're right. We did. And we're sorry. Isabella's voice cracked. But Sophia, I need you to understand something. Everything I did, every choice I made was because I was terrified of losing you, and I handled it badly. I should have trusted you with the truth, but I was so scared that if you knew, you'd get hurt, or that you'd have to lie too, and I couldn't ask that of you. So you just lied instead. Yes? And that was wrong.
Sophia was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at Nathan. Do you really love my mom? Yes, I really do. And Mia, you're okay with all this? Mia shrugged. I like living here.
I like having a sister, and I like that Dad doesn't look sad all the time anymore. Sophia almost smiled at that. Then her expression turned serious again. If you get married for real,
Does that mean you're my dad now? Nathan's throat tightened. Only if you want me to be. What if I don't?
then I'm just Nathan, the guy who lives here and cares about you and wants to make sure you're happy. Sophia thought about that. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need.
She nodded. Then quietly, I'm still mad at you both. I know, Isabella said, and that's okay. But I'm glad you won the custody thing. I don't want to live with Dad.
You don't have to, ever. Sophia hugged her mother then. It was brief and tentative, but it was something, progress. Trust that had been broken, but might eventually heal. The girls went upstairs after that, leaving Nathan and Isabella alone in the living room. That went better than I expected, Nathan said. She hates us. She doesn't hate us, she's hurt. There's a difference. How long do you think it'll take for her to forgive us? As long as it takes. We'll just keep showing up and being honest and proving we mean it.
Isabella leaned against him. I'm exhausted. Me too. But we won. Yeah, we did.
They sat there together, two broken people who'd somehow managed to build something whole, and Nathan realized that this was what family actually looked like. Not perfect, not easy. Just people choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. 3 months later, Nathan stood at the edge of the Laurent Estate Gardens, wearing the same suit he'd worn to court, watching Isabella walk toward him in a simple white dress with both girls beside her. Mia was carrying flowers. Sophia was holding her mother's hand. It was just the four of them, no guests, no photographers, no lawyers or judges or contracts, just a family choosing to make it official. The officiant was a friend of Isabella's, someone who knew the whole messy story and didn't judge them for it. She smiled as they gathered in a small circle under the oak tree.
We're here today to celebrate a marriage, she began, one that's already legally binding, but that Nathan and Isabella want to recommit to. The right way this time, with honesty and love and the full understanding of what they're promising each other.
Nathan looked at Isabella. She looked back at him, her eyes bright. Isabella Laurent, do you take Nathan Hayes to be your husband? Not as an arrangement, not as a strategy, but as your partner in all things?
I do, Isabella said clearly.
Nathan Hayes, do you take Isabella Laurent to be your wife? To stand beside her in good times and bad? To be a father to her daughter? To build a life that's messy and real in yours?
I do, Nathan said.
Then by the power vested in me, and with the blessing of these two amazing girls standing here with you, I pronounce you husband and wife. Again, for real this time.
They kissed while Mia and Sophia cheered. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. That evening, after the girls had gone to bed and the house was quiet,
Nathan and Isabella sat on the terrace again, the same spot where Isabella had asked him to stay, where everything had changed. My father called today, but Nathan said, he's officially in remission.
Nathan, that's amazing. Yeah, the doctors say he might actually beat this thing. When do we get to meet him?
He wants to come visit next month, if that's okay. Of course it's okay. This is your home too. Nathan looked at her. Is it weird that I still can't believe this is real sometimes? No. I feel the same way, like I'm going to wake up and this whole thing will have been some elaborate dream.
What would you do if you woke up and none of this had happened? Isabella thought about it. I'd find you anyway. Maybe not the same way, but somehow.
Because I think we were always supposed to end up here. You believe in fate? I believe in choices. And I think we kept choosing each other, even when we didn't have to. That's more powerful than fate. Nathan pulled her closer. For what it's worth, I'm glad you sent that message. The one that started all this. Even though it was manipulative and desperate, especially because it was manipulative and desperate, because it was real. You needed help and you asked for it. That takes courage.
I was terrified.
So was I. But we did it anyway. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out, and Nathan thought about everything that had brought them here. The hospital bills, the custody case, the contract they'd signed, and the promises they'd broken, all of it leading to this moment.
Isabella? Yeah? I love you. I love you too. And this time, there was no pretending, no performance, no contract dictating the words they were supposed to say.
Just two people who'd started as strangers, became partners in desperation, and somehow ended up as exactly what they needed. A family built on honesty, sacrifice, and the messy, complicated truth that sometimes the best things in life start from the worst circumstances. Because love doesn't care about contracts or timelines or whether two people make sense on paper. It just happens. And if you're brave enough to let it, it changes everything. Nathan Hayes had walked into Isabella Laurent's office, expecting a business transaction. What he'd gotten instead was a home, a partner, a family, and a reminder that sometimes the most desperate choices lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Not because they were easy, not because they were smooth or perfect or predictable, but because they were real. And in the end, that's all that ever really matters.